Outlander fans, we're back for episode 9 of season 5 of your favourite show. I'm Rob Licuria, joined once again by Paula Sullivan-Licuria, and we're here to talk about the very fantastic episode, Monsters and Heroes. Now, according to Stars, the synopsis is as follows. When Jamie is bitten by a venomous snake, Claire fears that she may not have the resources to save him. Jamie asks Roger to complete an important task in the event of his death. This was a pretty good episode. I think that there were parts of it that were really well done, and some parts that didn't quite work for me. What were your overall thoughts of the episode?
You're asking the most biased person on Gold Derby about what they didn't like about this episode. I really enjoyed it, to be honest with you. Like, for me, I actually laughed a lot through this episode.
There was funny parts in this one.
Yeah, like it was supposed to be very dramatic and very serious, but then I would be finding myself chuckling to myself. So I like most episodes of Outlander, and I quite liked this one. It's very different from all the others, I felt.
Yes. There was a point in the episode where you actually said, I effing love this show. You actually said that. And you said the actual word. I'm just trying to be...
Yes, I do. I really I don't know. I don't even remember the scene. I thought the writing was brilliant. I don't know. It was a scene between Roger and Jamie where they were talking about always being there for each other or something, and then you just like went for it. Anyway, let's talk about some of the elements of the episode and what we liked and perhaps maybe didn't quite like. But the first point I've got on my notes is that I really appreciated, and I said this out loud, I really appreciated seeing a nice, normal dad bod in Richard Rankin, so that we didn't have to always see the sculpted beauty of him. We could see something a bit more doughy and hairy, which is kind of like me looking in the mirror. So, kudos to him. What can I say to that, really?
Nothing.
Without being sexist. Look, don't forget, Sam Hewen is hairy. You just can't see it very well because it's kind of blondie red, like Richards is black. But no, it's nice to see. I like the juxtaposition of the different types. Reminds us that there are normal people out there.
Yeah. So then Jamie gets bitten by a snake, and I straight away just said, we know he's not going to die, so why is this really important? I mean, obviously, it was the trigger for, to explore his mortality and blah, blah, blah. But that was...
Well, yeah. And, do you remember my answer to you was for dramatic purpose? Look, the snake bite does take a good whack in the book. I'd completely forgot that it was coming. I didn't think they would actually entertain it, to be honest with you, or at least spend a whole episode on it. But I like the way they did it. I confess I haven't got to that point in the book yet.
But you've read it before. You mean your reread?
Yeah. No reread. I haven't got to that point yet. But I do remember it. I still found it very tense, but I did enjoy and don't forget, remember I told you this, it was a good way for Roger and Jamie to have that bonding moment. Jamie sends Roger off to go find the rest of the group that they were with, and, God love Roger, he cannot traverse his way through a forest at the best of times, and so he gets completely lost and can't find them. So he's there thinking Jamie's life's hanging in the balance, and and they just do this whole beautiful little bonding thing, and especially when Roger quotes the Bible verse, which he gets wrong and Jamie corrects him with. But no, I found it very beautiful. It was really sweet.
The early part of those scenes were about those two men bonding. They've not, I mean, they've bonded quite enough as it is, obviously. You know, Roger almost died. In fact, there's been a lot of almost lethal occurrences between these two people, but they did bond over that whole scenario, and then it was Roger who had to bring him back home and hope that Jamie would survive. There's some talk there about taking Bree back through the stones. Why don't you talk us through that aspect of the storyline?
Well, basically all it really is, without spoilers, it's a two-pronged sort of conversation, I feel. One part of it is that for them they feel safer in their time, for want of a better phrase, and it's also because Brianna and Claire were having this conversation early on in the episode, and it also goes to the fact that Roger and Brianna are still trying to find where they fit in this world. How can they best use their abilities in a world where there is no need for a scholar, or let alone what Brianna loves, which is engineering. And that's the two-pronged sort of conversation. That's what I thought anyway. Does that answer your question?
So then Roger has to drag Jamie back to the Fraser's Ridge. Jamie's a big boy, so that would have been quite fun.
That was funny to watch, actually.
Yeah. And this guy's at death's door, and he's still being a smartass and making jokes. I actually laughed out loud when he said, "You really got to work on your bedside manner, Sassenach," and he was like, he's almost going to die, and he was still having a crack at her. I thought that was hilarious. It just reminds us of the relationships and the chemistry between those two, and also the two couples. That happens organically over time in a series, but sometimes it doesn't quite work when the casting's off or when the writing's off. But thankfully for Outlander, they are generally firing on all cylinders, and that interaction is what I really look forward to. Just that organic affection they have for each other.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, even I think it was young Ian who turned around and said he was still having a go about the sled that Roger made. Because, he was having a go because it was poorly made, which I thought was quite funny as well, and I think I laughed out loud at that point. So, yeah, you can just see that the cast just feed off each other, and in a good way. So I look forward to it as well. I exactly see where you're coming from in that regard. Yeah, that's kind of fun to watch.
And the only other aspect of that particular A-plot storyline in the episode was the syringe, and Brianna being so intelligent and using her ingenuity and like problem-solving skills, just like her mother, to come up with a plan to then all of a sudden bring Jamie back to life, so to speak.
Yeah, well, because don't forget, and it goes back to about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where one of the Browns men takes Claire's syringe and promptly stomps on it. Because I think even during that episode you said to me, why was it so important for them to film that bit? And then obviously this is why. Stuff happens, stuff goes down, and Claire really needed that syringe. And so again, it goes back to Claire saying to Brianna, you just need to figure out how to work your passion into this era. And Brianna created a syringe, which was quite ingenious, I reckon. And then that's essentially what saves her father's life, because then Claire is able to literally inject the penicillin into Jamie's bloodstream through the great work, makeup, prosthetic work, whatever it was, in that gross hole in the leg.
Yeah, gross. And then maggots are pretty gross too. Like, I was just like,
yeah,
oh. Never to muscle nuggets. Here's what didn't work for me about the episode. So we spent a lot of time on the snake bite and on Jamie not wanting his leg cut off and wanting to go into his own bed, and then Claire taking off her top and exposing her bare breasts and warming him up, and that's what brought him back from the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's all cool, I get it, but there's a lot of time spent on that, and look, I don't mean to be too critical, but I'm just trying to be honest. Then we had 5 seconds on Marcelly's pregnancy and giving birth, and all she was like, pop, the baby came out, and here we are, and 2 episodes ago, Myrta died, and it's like as if he never existed, and I just don't find that, I don't buy that personally, and I would like to see some little callbacks to Myrta. And also, if we're going to have the birth of Marcelly's baby, Felicity, I think that's what they named her, wouldn't we spend more than a minute on it and not just a throwaway and spend all this time on the snake bite? That's just me. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, okay, I think there's a lot of info I have to unpack in that question. I think with Myrta dying, yes, but we've sort of done that. We sort of addressed that with Jocasta singing and all that, you know. Well, see, don't forget Myrta was a criminal and there's only so much they could do. You know, and life still goes on. You know, there's still people on the ridge who need to be fed. People still get injured. People still get hurt. So people still give birth to babies. I think that's kind of what it is. It's not that they've forgotten Myrta or that they're over it. I think it's more to do with the fact that life goes on. And you just sort of have to pick yourself up and keep on going. And I actually remember thinking about Myrta in a scene, this sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where Jamie asked Roger to make him a promise, which was to go to Wiley's Landing and kill Stephen Bonnet. And Roger said to Jamie something along the lines of, if someone is standing there in front of you and they have fear in their eyes, how can you basically pull the trigger? And it was at that point I remembered Myrta, and, you know, you had this young soldier who was obeying his orders and pulled the trigger, which killed Myrta. So I found that that sort of ruffled me a little bit, but it was a good point. But I don't think they've ever forgotten. I don't think they ever will, because, you know, Myrta taught Jamie to live by his word and be loyal, right? That was one thing that Jocasta said, you know, and live by your word, you know. And at the end, you know, Jamie says, you give me your word, you won't take my leg. And then he goes, I give you my word back, because he decided he would much rather live without the leg than die with a leg. So I sort of feel like there are elements of Myrta. You've got to look for them. You've got to be aware that they're there, but they're there nevertheless. And in regards to Marcelly, I was a bit bummed, actually. I was hoping to see a bit, not that we need to literally see it, but it was like it was a side story that they sort of started off with and then they sort of forgot about towards the end.
And they're running out of time, so they're just like, baby. Yeah, I sort of feel that way a bit, especially, because this episode was about bonding and creating family ties where there are none. You know, because you had the bit with Marcelly, she's getting a checkup with Claire, and Marcelly goes, it'll be nice to have you there, not as my physician, but as my ma. Oh, God, I almost cried like a baby at that scene, which I thought was really beautiful. And then because Claire was taking care of Jamie, she completely missed it. And then and I was more curious as to why no one sort of came running up to Claire and said, oh, hey, by the way, just so you know, Marcelly's giving birth. Heads up. Like, I understand she was focused on Jamie. I completely get that. But how can that message not be passed on? So, yeah, I love Marcelly. I even said to you, God, I love Lauren Lyle. I think she's awesome this season. She's very good.
she's very good. So props to her. But yeah, I thought, she's just been tapped on the end. Didn't like it.
No, that's just the one thing that didn't quite work. But all in all, good episode written by Shayna Fewell and directed by Annie Griffin, by the way. So an all-female team once again on this show, which is great to see. Wasn't the best episode of the season. I think that still belongs to the 2 episodes prior. But this one was okay. I enjoyed it. And we don't have that many more to go, so we're going to have to relish as much as we can, because then the Droughtlander will then recommence once again.
Can we not talk about that?
Story of our lives. We'll try not to talk about it.
Please.
Now, my final thought here is we're all staying home and we're all trying to stay safe and healthy, no matter where you are across the globe. So please keep doing that. Rewatch the episode. Comment on our video. Let us know what you think. Tweet us. We want to hear from you guys. We really, really appreciate your feedback. And in the meantime, we'll see you back next week for more Outlander for episode 10. See you later.